This is really about a man who appears to be an average man who is born with the gift of being able to see 2 minutes into his future.
Being able to see a couple minutes in your own life is very cool.
I think that the idea of being able to see in the future is one that's been a foundation for a lot of science fiction stories throughout, history.
He's a superhero who does not want to step up and take responsibility for using his powers for the good of the community.
It's sort of a sci-fi romantic thriller. I mean, to see Nick Cage and Julianne Moore together in the same movie is, I think, a thrill right off the bat.
There's an element of fantasy to it, and I think people enjoy that when they come to the movies.
I see it more as kind of like a new age action movie. The character's more paranormal than standard sci-fi.
If you're going in looking for an action film, you'll find that. If you're going in looking for a drama, you'll find that.
We call it cogging. He's pre-cogging everything. It isn't really that hard a concept to grasp. As people, we naturally do it. I'm doing it right now, talking to you.
I think you can't help but be intrigued by a person who can do that, and only to your own future.
I'm thinking about what I'm going to say before I say it. So I'm cogging with you.
Next is adapted very loosely from a short story by Philip K. Dick called The Golden Man. It's the third film that I'm doing from a short story by Philip K. Dick. The first two were Total Recall and The Minority Report. And I was looking for something to follow up on that, something spectacular that had never been done before. Golden Man has a character with a superpower, and it's a superpower which is a kind of precognition, the ability to see into the future, but it's done in a way which has never really been done before. Instead of being clairvoyant, where he just has a glimpse of something far into the future, our character, Chris, has radar into the future. He can see with absolute precision a short distance into his own future. And I was very excited about putting this on screen and exploring the possibilities cinematically and visually, and also in terms of the narrative. What kind of a story could you tell with someone who has this ability?
The idea of being able to see a short distance into your future, what that would look like, what's going on in that person's brain. What Gary Goldman, the screenwriter, did was he essentially distilled the key element of the short story and applied it to action movie context. And that idea is that there's a guy who has this gift of seeing a short distance into his own future and being able to play out events before they happen and make decisions based on what the outcome will be.
We'll spin around and go back about 2 miles, take your second left. There'll be a motel there called...
Cliffhanger, thanks.
Right.
When you know Gary's past, you know that you're in for some interesting sci-fi action, but what got me was probably around the page 3, when all of a sudden you saw what Chris Johnson could do and that he had this really unique power. It made for a really interesting visual and storytelling device to do an action movie that I hadn't seen before.
How would a man who was born with this ability hide it? And I thought, well, wouldn't it be interesting if they really were doing it, but they hide it in the guise of a magic show? And so I sort of introduced that into the script, the idea that he's hiding in plain sight, acting like a magician so that no one could call him freak. He's just doing a magic trick when he's really doing the real thing. And I've always wanted to play a magician in a movie, so I get to do the magic tricks, plus I get to do the real paranormal stuff and have the love story and also have the action adventure.
The supernatural in the world of magic is always something of interest to Nick. He looks into it a little bit in Ghost Rider and a little bit in The Wicker Man, and that aspect of our world is very interesting to him. But I certainly the idea of hiding in plain sight as a less than superhero figure is very interesting to me.
It's something naturally people do every day. You think about what you're going to say before you say it to get the desired response. And Chris Johnson's just doing that amplified. You know, a lot of people might wonder, if you had these abilities, well, why don't you go and make a lot of money with it? In the beginning of the film, you do see Chris winning and in casinos in Las Vegas, but only taking as much as he needs. He does have a sense of right and wrong, and he doesn't want to take too much because I think he feels that it's unfair. Well, I really like the idea of the playfulness with his abilities, what you could do with that ability. And I think the diner scene with Liz shows that, you know, thinking how is the perfect way to meet this girl and get her to be with me. Every guy's been through that. Every guy has sat in a bar and gone, I really want to meet her, I just don't know what to say to her. I'm going to get shot down, and Chris is going through that. Sorry to bother you, but I have a question about the coffee. The bean they use.
Isn't that something you should probably ask your waitress?
Yes, it is. I contributed in the development process to find ways to make both characters, Liz, Jessica Biel's character, and my character, Chris Johnson, to have a very romantic quality. Jessica plays this part. She has a kind of a quality that you feel you could be friends with her.
Well, certainly, you know, having Jessica Biel in the movie and knowing how she's going to react to his every move is fun for males to imagine.
I noticed you were alone, too. Do you mind if I join you?
Actually, I do. Nothing's ever the same. And it's been a great way to work. It's been really fun. And to kind of play out the different endings, per se. You know, does he get beat up? Does he not get beat up? It hasn't made shooting boring, I guess, if, you know, because we do it a lot. We would do it over and over and over anyway.
It is a little bit tricky because some of the scenes, when I initially read them, felt like, well, am I guilt-tripping her into being with me by acting this all out? But you know, my car broke down, I gotta take the bus, would you give me a lift? Oh, thank you, you know, kind of getting almost like entrapment. But then I felt like if you can just tone that guilt trip aspect of it down and play it more like, I've only got so much time and I've got to be with this person. I don't really know why, but I'm gonna find out. I think a little of it is okay. It was important to me to play Chris nervous about how she would react to who he was. Hey, how many suicides have you caused? Baby?
When I work with Nick, he improvises all the time and he's silly. I use that word because I just didn't expect him to be so fun. I don't know, I guess that might not seem like a lot, but for me, it's just another reminder of how important it is to not get stuck in one way of, you know, doing one line, you know, rehearsing it over and over.
Well, everybody knows Nick. I mean, he's a tremendous actor, Academy Award winner, and he has a tremendous range from action hero to, you know, romantic lead. And, you know, as a guy, he's a real guy. You know, he's a really nice guy to be around, and he's funny, and, you know, he's easygoing, and kind of a dream for production and, you know, director too, for that matter. You know, he's collaborative, he's smart, and he's able to put a little bit of spin on things without, you know, feeling forced or, you know, trying too hard. Very natural about it all.
I think he's an actor who's got a tremendous imagination, and he's incredibly detail-oriented, you know, so I think he's always searching for what he believes the character would do in a situation, no matter how far-fetched it is.
Of course, Nick Cage was the perfect movie star to play it because he has, I would say, easily the most emotion and is able to arouse the deepest feelings of anybody who's working in the movies today.
Well, the thing that's great about Nicolas Cage is not only can he do all the physical stuff, and he is an unbelievably sympathetic character in his persona and being a movie star, but when you get in trouble and you need it, he can act his way out of anything.
Look at this. Look. Ta-da!
Working with Nick has definitely been everything I ever hoped or expected it to be, even though I really had no expectations. But like you said, he does have a prestige, and he is just one of the best. And he's somebody that I've looked up to and admired for a long, long time.
It's interesting to see somebody who is as big of a movie star as he is still come in and try to work out story, who's still passionate about, you know, developing the best story possible. And I was inspired by that.
And he always gives you something different. The thing about Nick is He's fearless. He's not afraid to go out on the edge and very often past it. And, you know, most of the time when he goes past it, that's what you end up using because it's unbelievable.
It's his gun. He was going to shoot 2 people.
Step back, we'll settle this right now. Hey!
We're wanted for assault involving a weapon at the casino.
All right, that was an accident. He had a gun. He was going to shoot 2 people.
Yeah. How'd you know that?
Julianne Moore is someone I've always admired. She's being a real tough cop, and she's doing it perfectly. What I like about our relationship is that we both have a point. You know, it's like there's one scene in a training facility where she's saying, look, there's 8 million people whose lives are at stake. You've got to tell me where the bomb is. And I'm saying, yeah, but this is torture. What you're doing is wrong. So it does, without getting preachy, it starts bringing up those political questions of, is it right to torture a man to get the answer of where a bomb is?
There is a conflict, you know, and I think there's a conflict today with how far can you go, you know, to prevent the thought or the threat of something happening, and who is right, who's wrong. You know what I mean? And it's a fine line.
I think that what my character's trying to do is very direct, you know? I mean, there's a bomb that's going to blow up Los Angeles, and she's trying to find a way for the bomb not to go off. And she feels that this is the best way to handle the situation, the only way. They're not able to find it. They feel that this is a person who can help them. Therefore, she's going to find that person, and she's going to then, you know, find the bomb. In terms of Nick's character, I'm sure there's a lot of feeling of, you know, rights being invaded or whatever, but as what she, you know, for what she's doing, she's simply trying to prevent a major catastrophe.
I already have. I did have a harness on me, but I was flying high. And I've always wanted to be a hang glider, so it was sort of my first step towards that direction.
3, 2, 1, go.
Boom! I try to go into a zone where I breathe deep and I say, whatever will be, will be.
Nobody knows the wonderful things I've seen, things I've done.
In a sense, it's a way of meeting it head on and not letting the fear get me so I can get on top of fear, and then I can just get through it. I work very closely with my stuntman who always encourages me to do as many of the stunts as the studio will let me do, and I do it. If you're going to be in action adventure films, you do have to become a stuntman. It's important to the audience that they know the actor's actually doing it, and I go for it, and so far it's all been good.
What's really cool about our action sequences is since Nick does know what's coming, he almost has this amazing, like, ballet sort of beautiful choreographed routines because he knows where everything's coming. When it comes to stunts, I don't really ever want to draw the line. I really always want to go for it as much as possible. I find them really fun, and they're always really calculated and completely rehearsed, so I never really feel like I'm gonna really injure myself. You know, you're always padded up, or you're jumping on a certain pad, or everyone's around to make sure that everything's gonna go smoothly. And you know, there is a possibility that it couldn't.
Tail sticks. 2.
I'd like to do everything I can. I even told Lee, I said, add some more stuff, because I will jump out of this car and roll on the ground all day long if you want. I enjoy it.
So the more the body swings, the more an object can go over him. And then if he turns to that...
I was appealing to Lee's earlier work that I responded to and trying to encourage us to dig into character development. He helped me in a lot of scenes find the right levels of anger and frustration.
Yes, yes. Now, gets back to his stand-up position. 3, please wait. And then big object. Bang! Yes, excellent. Good.
He's great. He's done a great job on this film because I think when you put together these movies, it's a lot. It's tough because often what you have scripted is not what you've ended up with. Therefore, the next day you come in, you have to adapt what you're planning on doing based on what you shot the day before, and so it's kind of a continuous. It's a difficult thing to put together, and I think Lee's done a wonderful job. The technical support we've had on this movie has been tremendous. Some of the guys that we're working with, he used to be on the LA SWAT team. Our other technical advisor has just been wonderful. It's kind of great to work with those kind of people because they sort of very gently explain how it's going to happen and how what will be, you know, what the formation is, how you set it up, how you pass off a sniper rifle, all that kind of stuff. So that's been a lot of fun.
When I'm reading something and, you know, I'm reading explosions or reading action sequences or anything, honestly, I completely forget about what it really takes to actually create those moments until I get on set and I realize, what did I get involved in? What am I thinking? I'm strapped in this bomb suit and like about to go exploding across the catwalk. When the big, huge explosion is going off, definitely, naturally, my instinct is to, you know, be nervous, get scared, you know, get you know, startled, and I think that's a challenge. I feel like I've done enough action movies and have been through enough kind of explosions or, you know, fight sequences or anything that I'm able to incorporate them more easily now. So I just have to really think about what it really takes to do those, and I still forget. I just get wrapped up in the story and I'm like, ooh, yeah, all right, I'm in. And then, you know, you get there and you're like, I'm where for 6 months?
This movie, Next, was truly born out of a love for this author, and the forces that brought us all together and made this deal possible kind of all came from that.
I feel that there is something in this movie for everybody.
What we have here is a guy who is just trying to be with the woman that he loves and just trying to live a life with her in such a way that he can have a normal life, a normal relationship, and a normal family in extraordinary circumstances.
I love romantic films, but I also like adventure movies and I like action. And the best is when you can combine the two.
It's happening.
When?
Now.
I mean, who doesn't love an action romance? That's hot.
I'm hopeful that this film will provide something for all audiences. And I believe it. I stand by this movie. I do believe in it. I'm supposed to be in Flagstaff.
Well, listen, maybe I could give you a ride. And I'm kind of going that way.
That would really be helpful.
Well, I do have to make a stop, though.
It's okay.
And it might take a few hours, so if you're cool with that.
Makeup and hair crew.
Nick is actually the inspiration behind this Have a Soup Pie reservation, which we didn't know anything about. He suggested it, and he'd been there something like 3 times before.
Well, the reason is because that's where I took my wife on our first date. I dropped her, we went into a helicopter and landed at the bottom of the canyon, and we went for a hike. And I met all these wonderful Indians, and it was the most beautiful place on earth I'd ever been.
We found that as we were developing the script, the last throes of the development of it, that the romance had gotten a little bit of short shrift compared to the action and the thriller aspects of the movie, and so we needed to open it up a little bit as far as allowing them to develop a relationship.
I think he likes you.
Well, why would you say that?
Because he looks at you like my brother looks at his girlfriend.
We needed the characters of Chris and Liz to spend some time together, and the timeline of the film in reality is quite short from beginning to the end of the film, but we needed moments for for Liz to fall in love with Chris, and Chris in reality to fall in love with Liz, and not just fall in love with her because he could see notions of what their future might be, but we had to make him really fall in love with her, and that's part of the design of what we're filming in the Grand Canyon, where she works with a poverty-stricken Indian tribe.
Hey. Have a soup-I reservation. I teach here once a week. The conditions are pretty lousy.
But it's in the canyon, one of the 8 wonders of the world.
It created an interesting aspect to her character, and so we were wondering what kind of a woman she was, what she did for a living, and it evolved through many different permutations, from working in a bar or a strip club, all kinds of things, but they didn't seem appropriate for Jessica, so we went with this instead. We felt like we needed something, kind of magical that they could experience together in order to really develop the romance of it. And it's one of the most beautiful places I've ever seen. This waterfall, never even knew it existed. It's beautiful, green water from the limestone that's leached out into the water from these cliffs.
I found this rock out in the canyon, and I want you to hold it, because it's a magic rock. That's right. Hold it really tight. Keep squeezing. It's magic. He won't bite.
Havasupai is one of the most challenging production nightmares that I've ever dealt with, because the only way for us to get a day done there is to helicopter everybody in and out. It's very remote. It's off of the rim of the Grand Canyon.
Walk, don't run. Keep a hold of your hat and don't put anything above your head. Okay? Okay, follow me.
It's so remote that this Havasupai reservation has been kind of isolated from the world in some ways. They're all inexperienced in terms of working around a movie set, and the daylight down there, because we're in such a steep, part of the Grand Canyon, the shadows that come from the walls, the shadow of the sun means that we won't be able to film past 5 in the afternoon, and the sun doesn't get good until about 10 in the morning, so it restricts our day on top of everything else. Even though it's remote, the satellite TV works, and in fact, when we were there last time, they said that they knew that he had just bought an island in the Bahamas. Well, news travels fast, because that had only happened, like a week prior to. But they do know him, and one of the ladies there named her newborn son after him, and they like him very much.
I had a nice relationship with these people, and I thought no one's ever really seen this area, this gorgeous waterfall, and these fantastic rocks, and so the place itself has a personal importance to me, but I think it's also something I wanted to share with audiences to see how beautiful this place is when you consider it's right in our own backyard, and most people don't know about it.
Being able to see my own future would be cool in one respect, because you could relax about, well, what's my career gonna be like? I don't know if I would call it amazing, but...
Destiny.
Okay, I'm starting to get that psycho vibe. Or maybe not relax, maybe totally freak out when you realize that, you know, you never work again and turn into a bum on the street. I don't know. Oh, shit. I mean, I guess that's the advantage, is to see where you'll be in the future and what your personal life and what your career life is going to be like, your professional life. Have a Supai reservation. I teach here once a week. But I think the disadvantage is it doesn't make life very much fun. I sort of would rather not know. I sort of enjoy the spontaneity of life, how one choice I make one day will affect, you know, a whole year of my life or the next 10 years of my life, and I don't know what's going to happen.
He's delusional. Sociopath.
I think I would prefer to not know. I like the surprise. I definitely want to be surprised. I don't want to know. I want to be able to make those mistakes in my life, even though they might be painful. If you see what's happening, you would say, okay, so I'll avoid this person and that job and this and this and this, and then I'll be perfect when I get there. But it's like you haven't learned anything. You've kind of skipped over the bumps and sailed along into the sunset, which is kind of boring.
Please.
I might go to Vegas and win some money, but I wouldn't look too far ahead. I would stop it there. I would make sure I knew when I'm gonna hit 21, get my cash, get out of there.
Well, you don't believe in destiny?
I don't think I wanna know.
What has happened in visual effects over the last 15 to 20 years has been a tremendous difference.
We're imitating reality. We have something that we're looking at and it has to match it exactly. And so it's a big challenge for these kind of shots.
You go into a show like Next and you try and develop the most interesting looking thing you can, really with the tools that are out there. I think one of the biggest things that I had to deal with on the show was, do I go with CG or do I go with miniatures? And by the time we shot it, I realized that trying to go with miniatures, I was going to have to build so many contour sets to try and set stuff up and line up to it. It was going to be hideously expensive to go that way. Going with CG was a much more practical and logical way, because I didn't, you know, you get a few people on a machine here working in a little dark room and throwing the peanuts, and you know, out the back comes a really nice looking shot.
They want to have a car get hit by a train, and that was pretty much all they said. And we worked with John, we went out to the location they wanted to shoot with, and we determined there's no real way to really explode a car on the set that they had. So we went and shot a lot of still photos of the intersection where everything was going to happen, and we built up a 3D model based on the photos that we took on set. The fact that we had to recreate the entire place in 3D was really one of the main challenges. The car and the train were fairly straightforward pieces of work, but when you're dealing with a full 360 camera move where you're going to see everything in the intersection, we had to be a lot more careful with what we were working with.
The precog, as we dealt with it, it evolves. You'll see it each time you see it, it's a little different. He pulls off a little differently. We had two big motion control ones. You see the one in the hull of the ship where he's just everywhere at one time. The one producer walked out of the meeting to me and he said, I want to see 50 nicks. Next time he walked by me, I want to see 75 nicks. We looked at different things that seemed to have had some reference to them in earlier films. The one problem is that everything that we were coming up with took a significant amount of stage time. Lee did not want to put that much time into shooting the precog. He wanted to shoot the story.
John Sullivan came to me with this shot and said, we don't know what we want yet, but we got to try a bunch of different things to find something that the director likes. So we actually shot stuff. We got a video camera and we went out back and tried a bunch of different things to figure out, you know, best placement of the camera, best movement, things like that. And then we started doing tests once they finished shooting, and we tried, we'd do 5 versions, the director would see them, we'd refine those, we'd try totally different things, go out totally in an opposite direction just to try to find something that really clicked. All in all, we did over 200 versions probably.
So it was really an explore and discover situation. There was no visual answer going into it beforehand. It was, it's tough, but when you show me what I like, I'll know it. Because nuclear explosions have been done so many times in show, Lee had really chosen to play it down. It was going to be, they're there, they say, oops, too late, boom, big flash to white. Then we carry on with the story because that was part of a precog. Just towards the end of production, we decided that we're going to actually have this big nuclear explosion with the ship getting flipped and all this destruction and mayhem going on. So there wasn't a lot of time to plan for it. It was decided it might happen while we were working down in the area at the docks where that was supposed to happen. So I had the ship scanned by Itronics, and I had the dock area scanned by Itronics, and I shot a lot of still photo reference to use in the shot when it happened. For the avalanche sequence, in order to get it done in an efficient fashion, I broke it into four pieces. And they were each broken up into logical segments so that there was no problem with the look bouncing against one facility and the other. The vendors, in terms of the complexity of the work, look was the primary, doing the whole traction engine that tumbles down the hill, the logs hitting the cars and all of that. Then Digiscope, with all this extra shots, we decided to add more things coming down the hill to amp the whole thing up.
Our contribution to the sequence was to do a number of shots in the avalanche sequence. The difficulty about the sequence, especially for John Sullivan, was that he had to break it up into a number of different vendors because of time constraints. So our contribution was basically, we called ourselves the barrel vendor. Our shots included barrels. We also had the wagon wheel, which was supplied to us, rocks and boulders. So the sequence starts out that you first start with a number of rocks, then wagon wheels are coming down, now barrels are coming down, now a steam engine's coming down, now a car's coming down, and all of these things sort of build up in this final climax.
Where Nicolas Cage's character is running down the hill and everything kind of ends up chasing, the car ends up going over the top of him. That was actually a location when we did that. That was going to be maybe wagon wheels going over them or some rocks or a water tower or some kind of a simple shape. And like 2 weeks before we got done shooting, Lee said, I want to have the car go over the top of them there.
One of the shots we had to do was animate a car coming down the mountain to go into the big avalanche scene. And what we have here is the car's coming down, and as it's coming down, we have all the elements coming, and then we have the wireframe model behind it. And we stop, we see as it starts and all the different elements that are layered in to make up the final composite. And once we have all the elements in, then the final color correction, and then the car coming down the hill.
I really enjoyed working on Next. I found Lee to be kind of refreshing to work with. I liked his approach to creativity. It was a show where everybody was enjoying what they were doing. It had a real positive attitude, and I think that comes through in the film.
Well, that's magic, folks, and that's why I'm here.